In a world where sales pros are tired of watered down, generalized, and frankly boring talks, we're breaking down the doors and bringing back the hustle and flow for sales. Where sales, closing, and mindset isn't just a thought, it's an art, it's a lifestyle. Welcome to the Sales Mindset Podcast. We're diving into sales strategies, closing techniques, business mindset, and that vital motivation to help you sell more, earn more, and have a mindset that's unstoppable for yourself and your business. Whether you're a seasoned sales veteran looking to sharpen your skills, or a business owner, or even a rookie just getting your feet wet, this podcast is for you. Join us as industry leaders and disruptors help unlock the secrets of the sales and mindset game. And for even more in-depth sites, visit us at www.thesalesmindcoach.com. Enjoy the podcast and keep on learning and closing. Hello and welcome to the Sales Mindset Podcast. And today's guest is Dre Baldwin, known as DreAllDay. Dre is the founder and CEO of Work on Your Game, where he teaches high-performance systems built on 4 pillars: discipline, confidence, mental toughness, and personal initiative. He is a former 9-year pro basketball player. That story alone is an amazing one. Dre has also delivered 4 TEDx talks and authored over 40 books, including Work on Your Game, The Third Day, The Super You, and the latest book, The Sales Discipline System. Dre has built one of the longest running solo business shows in the world with 3,000 plus episodes of the Work on Your Game podcast, and now has over 7.7 million downloads. That's just amazing. His content and framework helps athletes, entrepreneurs, executives, and sales teams turn their effort into outcomes with repeatable systems and real accountability. Thank you, Dre, for coming on the show today. It is an honor and pleasure to have you on the show, sir.
I'm excited to be here, Jesse. Thank you for the beautiful introduction. Hopefully I can live up to it.
Absolutely. So my first question is a real simple one. How did you come up, or how did you get assigned the name DreAllDay? I think I know the answer already just from following and watching you, but I'd love you to tell the audience.
I want to know your guess before I answer.
You are on all day, every day. You don't have an off switch. I'm sure your family says the same thing. Like, Dre is like at this level of an energy level. I woke up this morning and you already had the podcast going. I mean, that's amazing.
Well, thank you. So where the actual name itself came from, it was because this is 2007. I was reading this book called Pop, P-O-P. And it's by this author named Samantha Horn. I don't know if anyone's heard of Samantha. And the book, the P-O-P stands for Purposeful, Original, and Pithy. And the book was literally about languaging the things that you call stuff. So if you're going to create a product or a service or write a book or have a title for a business, you want it to be purposeful, original, and pithy, because what Samantha was arguing is that your name needs to be memorable enough that people can get it. They know what it means. They know what it's about without you having to explain it, and that they remember it the next day. So at that time, I didn't have anything online. This is 2007, Jesse. So I was about to get my first domain name, and I found out you go on GoDaddy, you can get a domain name for like $10. So I'm thinking DreBaldwin.com. Okay, that's my name, but it doesn't quite have a ring to it. So I need something that rings. So I'm reading Sam's book, and she's saying it's good to use things that have one syllable and alliteration or some type of rhyme or rhythm. So I said, what do I want to name it? I said, all right, everybody knows my name is Dre, so let's use my name, Dre. Baldwin doesn't quite rhyme with anything, so let's drop the Baldwin. And what do we do with Dre? All right, so I just started matching Dre. It's good. It starts with the letter D, and then it has that AY sound. So I just started matching sounds. And this is all in her book. She explains this. So you just start matching sounds and come up with something that kind of rhymes, that flows, that sings, as they say in copywriting. The copy got to sing. So I kept throwing words and Dre and Dre and Day. And then I came up with DreAllDay. And there's a rapper named Dr. Dre. You know, he has a song called DreAllDay. It came out in like the 90s. Yeah. So I can't use that one, but that doesn't match. It doesn't make sense. I kept doing stuff. DreAllDay. I came up with DreAllDay. This was just matching sounds until I found something that made sense. And then it came DreAllDay. 3 words, three letters, one syllable a piece. It rhymes. It's easy to say. You can't misspell it. And you'll probably remember it the next day. So it was perfect. So then I went and registered DreAllDay.com. This was October 2007. So that was my first foray into publishing. Well, actually, I was publishing on YouTube before that, but this is my first first website online, first domain name ever was DreAllDay.com. So that's where it came from.
I love that story. That's great. Thank you. I wrote down that pop information. After this podcast, I'm going to get her book. I think that's amazing.
Yeah, thank you.
So I'll just go to my next one here and just dive right into it, since we're talking about books and quotes and stuff. Do you have a favorite quote? And if so, what is it and why?
Well, with cheat and say work on your games, I won't use that one. My favorite quote, if I had to pick one quote, one quote. I'm not sure I have one favorite quote. I would really have to think about that. One that it's not something that I said. I would say, actually, I'll give you one. It's from my favorite rapper, this guy named 50 Cent. You ever heard of 50 Cent? Okay, so 50 Cent, a lot of people know his backstory, which is he was coming up in the streets and he was about to put out, or he was trying to get into rap, but he had been in the streets. So based on some old street conflict, he gets shot 9 times, almost dies, doesn't die, comes back, makes an album and blows up. Now, this was right after he got shot, but before he was on MTV, he used to put out songs on these things called mixtapes back when mixtapes were actual tapes. And he had a song that came out right after he got shot. And in the line, that was the first song he put out after he got shot, because everybody assumed he was dead. He came back and he said, my advice for anybody who gets hit the F up, my advice is you get shot down is get the F up. And he said the actual words. And I love that line because it's about resilience, Jesse. It's about coming back. It's about taking a situation where it looks like you lost and you win. And it connects to another line that I got from this guy named Damon Dash. I don't know if people know Damon. Damon was Jay-Z's business partner. Right.
I was going to say that's a name not many people know. I know Damon Dash because I grew up in the hip hop world and the rap world. And well, okay, please tell me more.
So those who know Jay-Z, Damon Dash was Jay-Z's business partner during his days rapping. And Damon Dash said, I heard him say this in an interview. He said, you're not a champion until you're in a situation where it looks like you're going to lose and you win. And if I had to take one quote from a song, it would be the 50 line. But if it's just somebody saying it, just talking, is that line from Damon Dash, is that to be a champion, you can't, and this is me paraphrasing it, you can't be a champion just beating easy opponents. So you're only as good as who you beat and what you come up against. And you have to be in a situation that looks like you can't win and then win. If you don't do that, you're not a champion. You may have trophies, but what did you beat? So you have to actually beat something formidable to be a champion.
I love both of those. That's great. And one of my favorites that I had taken down and actually used in one of my daily sales motivations that I put out every day is play the way you practice.
Right.
You can make a book just out of that. I think that's phenomenal. Can you kind of explain to the audience how that relates to salespeople and why it's so important? I know you did it as an athletic thing, but I think you've already turned this into entrepreneurial sales and other stuff as well.
Absolutely. So in sports, my basketball coaches would always say that to us when we were practicing and playing in recreational ball, high school ball, college ball, not so much in the pros, but recreational, college, high school. They would always say, you play how you practice. And coaches would often say it as a way of motivating us to practice hard because, hey, if you don't practice hard, you're not going to play hard. And the other thing was, if you don't practice the right way, you're not going to play in the game because I control who gets in the game. So you better practice hard because otherwise you won't be playing. And that's the way I saw it when I was 16. But I come to realize as an adult, even outside of sports, that that's exactly what it is. Because, Jesse, the hallmark of a professional is that they're prepared. You want to know you're dealing with a professional is that they already got ready for the situation before the situation occurred. That's the reason why professionals can do things so smoothly and they seem to handle things so easily. And it looks, quote unquote, natural. And it looks like talent when a professional does something. And it's not because they're just more talented than everybody else. Yes, they may have a baseline of skill and ability and talent sometimes. Most of the time they don't. It's that they have prepared ahead of time so much that when a situation occurs, they handle it as if they've seen it 1,000 times because they have in practice. They prepared before the situation occurred. So this is how a salesperson can handle every sales objection. This is how an athlete is ready to deal with what the opponent does. This is how a really good salesperson handles all the objections during the presentation, so there are no objections, right? That's how you actually do the preparation ahead of time. And that's what I call, the metaphor I use, Jesse, is called doing your homework. And a lot of people think that when you get out of school, you're done with homework. No, you just started. Because when you become a professional, that's all you do is homework. When I was playing ball, I used to tell athletes that watch me on YouTube, I said, I practice 10 hours for every 1 hour I spend playing in games. And that was true. I call it the 10-to-1 ratio. I would be in the gym practicing 10 times for every one game that I play, any kind of game. I don't care if we're playing 1-on-1, 3-on-3, or 5-on-5 overseas. I practiced a whole lot more than I played. So when I got into games, whatever I was going to do in the game happened naturally. I didn't even have to think about it.
You know, the one difference in our business here, Dre, and it's kind of unfortunate, and it's something that we scream from the mountaintops as managers and trainers and coaches, is practice. And in sales, most salespeople, and I was one, I've had my moments through the years, is they don't practice enough. They're not willing to role play or get the scenarios out, and they want to try to practice on the homeowner or the client, which is not fair to them or fair to the client.
That's right.
And it's something that we see. And I think it's so important that these sales reps practice their game. It's no different than practicing basketball or any other professional sport. They have to keep the practice in. Thank you so much for that. So in listening to your stuff, you mentioned your favorite book. And it was a little different of a book, but it was your favorite book. Can you tell the audience your favorite book and why that's your favorite book as well?
48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene.
Mm-hmm.
And why is my favorite book?
Mm-hmm.
So first, to tell you how I found it. Now, I came across this book back in maybe early 2000s. That book came out, I believe, 1998. And my mother's an educator. So she's always she would go to the bookstores. She's the reason why I'm a big reader and writer to this day. She instilled that in my sister and I from a very young age. And she is in early education. So she would go to the bookstores. Again, this is early 2000s, back when if you wanted a book, there was no Amazon. You had to go to the bookstore. And I would go with her, and she would go to the early education section. And I would go over to the sports section and the human psychology section. There's, of course, the sports part, and then human psychology, Jesse, because I was always into how do people think and how does the way we think lead to what we actually do. I was always into that. I didn't know there was a term for it. Now we know it's personal development or psychology or philosophy. And I was just in the bookstore. And you know how in the bookstore, the books are all lined up vertically and you can only see the spine of the book. So you see the spine of this orange book and it says the 48 laws of power. And I said, well, I want power. I did 48 laws. Okay. I can read 48. So I grabbed the book, and anybody who's seen the physical book knows on the back of the book, he has a list of all the 48 laws. And I'm just looking at them on the back of the book. And there was one that I noticed that really caught my attention. Still my favorite one to this day is law number 28. Is interaction with boldness. And I saw that and I said, that's right. I got it as soon as I read the title. And again, I hadn't even opened the book yet, Jesse. I'm just looking at the back of the book. And I went into that section of the book and I started reading it. And I said, this guy is writing in a way that people really talk, but nobody writes books like this. He was really, have you read the 48 Laws, Jesse?
I have not.
Okay. Well, anybody.
I didn't hear about it until I heard it the other day on yours. And I have a lot of different, woo-woo books and books of that nature. So I have not heard of it.
Yeah. So when I read the chapter, Robert Greene, he's an author, one of those people who cuts through the BS. And he talks to you like a person would actually talk to you if they were your friend and y'all were just having a conversation. He's not using all this flowery language. It's not very corporate. It's not washed. It's not whitewashed. He's just telling you straight up that when you behave in this way, you get this type of response. You behave in this way, you get that type of response. And just reading through a little bit of the chapter, I said, everything he's saying here is true because I've experienced it in my life. At this time, I'm maybe 18 or 19 years of age, but I could tell he knew exactly what he was talking about. This guy has a lot of life experience. I could tell even then. And I, of course, bought the book, and I probably read that book 50 times, all 48 chapters. And I can damn near list all of them. So the reason why it's my favorite book is because I've always been interested in how thoughts lead to actions and actions to outcomes. And that book is like the foundation of who you are as a person. When you understand things, doesn't mean you have to do everything the book says. When you understand why people do things, you can either play the game yourself or at least arm yourself defensively so that no one can use it against you. That's really what the book is about. Because if you listen to any Robert Greene's interviews, he talks about it. He says, the reason why I wrote the 48 laws is because some of the laws got used against me. And I realized how it was hurting me. So I had started to notice that this is what people do when they're playing these power games. Let me just put this all in a book so that other people, again, you don't have to try to be the person in this book, because the book is people criticize him of the book being very Machiavellian, is what he says, very manipulative. And it is if you use it that way. but it's also a very good defensive shield because it gets you ready for what people are going to try to do to you. So you're in the game whether you want to play or not. So do you want to win? You want to lose? And that's why I like that book.
That's great. Thank you for expanding upon that, because when you talked about it before, you kind of this shared a little bit about it, but thank you for expanding it and talking more about that. It sounds like an amazing book. It'll be on my list after the third day. So
you won't be able to put it down.
That's awesome. So in all the books that I've listened to and the stuff that I've heard you talk about, and even in your 4 pillars, right? Confidence is huge. It's something that you lean on quite a bit and talk about quite a bit, just from your own posture yourself. And we'll talk about that and how important that is too. Can you explain your take on confidence and why it's so freaking important? I wrote a book on confidence too. I wholeheartedly agree. Confidence is like by far one of the most important you can have.
Yes. And the reason why it's the most important, Jesse, because that's the one everybody wants. I mean, this is what it is. I mean, we're salespeople. So in the sales world, well, what do you sell? It depends. What do you want to buy? Right. And if you ask people, what do they want? Internal trait, something that's not tangible. What is it that you want more of? The answer is always healthier self-image, more self-esteem, more confidence. That's what everybody says. From basketball players to entrepreneurs to business professionals, everybody wants to be more confident. Now, why do people want to be more confident? People want to be more confident because people can theorize that if I'm more confident, I will try more things. I will show up in a more self-assured way. And because of that, people are more willing to listen to me, follow me. I'm probably going to be more successful because I'm going to try more stuff and I will get more of what I want in life. People can understand this in theory without even actually doing it. And they're 100% correct. When you're more confident, everything seems to work better for you and doors open for you. And people understand this because they see people who have more confidence than they do. And they're like, man, I wish I could have that person's confidence, right? And apply it to my skill set and I could probably get more results. Everybody understands this even without being able to explain it. So why does confidence matter so much? What's my take on confidence? First of all, I'm an absolutist when it comes to the dictionary. I like to give definitions of terms so we're all on the same page of communication. Definition of confidence is your belief in your ability to do something. That's what it means. So where does this belief in your ability to do something comes from? Well, usually it comes from the fact you've done it before. So the question naturally is, well, Dre, how can I be confident if I've never done it? Great. Well, it goes right back to what you asked me earlier, Jesse. Professionals, the hallmark of a professional is what? Preparation, doing your homework. This is why discipline creates confidence. And the reason why so many people are not confident is because most people have no discipline. They don't do the homework. They are not willing to prepare. They don't do the work before the situation. They wait till the situation occurs, then they try to figure it out. And if you're talented enough, you can get away with that until you can't. And then it becomes a problem. This is how an amateur athlete can dominate without trying hard in college. Then you get to the pros and everybody's good and you're getting your butt kicked because you're not doing the preparation work. And the best pros in the world, the Michael Jordans, the Kobe's, the reason why they're amazing is because not only are they talented, but they also do their homework. When you combine the two, you get Magic. Magic Johnson, another one, for example. People who do the homework and they have talent become superstars. So confidence, if someone wants to be more confident, let me not say easy, simple solution to increasing your confidence is increase your discipline. Discipline creates confidence. Confidence leads to performance, performance to results, results to rewards. So you want to step your confidence up. Everybody who's listening to this, step up your discipline. If you're a salesperson, I know we have a lot of salespeople listening to this. You want to be more confident on your next sales call, then just like you said, Jesse, role play with your peers on handling objections. What are the top 5 objections you always get? What are the top 3 you always get? Doesn't matter what you sell. It's the same 3 objections. I don't have the money. Let me think about it. I got to talk to somebody. 1, 2, 3. All right, those are always the top 3 objections. I got to talk to somebody. CFO, spouse, boss. I don't have the money right now. Let me think about it. All right. These are not objections. They're stalls. If you handle them during the presentation and or you get good at responding when someone says that to you, then you'll be more confident if and when they throw it out there. Simple as that. Same thing with an athlete. All right, what keeps happening? You're a boxer. You keep getting hit with the left hook. Okay, let's practice. Somebody throwing a left hook at you, you start getting knocked out. Right? So how do you block the left hook? You practice it over and over and over again. So the next time someone throws a left hook at you, you instinctively block the left hook. It's like the Karate Kid, right? They had him wax on, wax off. Then Mr. Miyagi tries to hit him. He immediately blocks it with the thing he's been training himself on. So you want to make this stuff unconscious. You don't want to have to consciously think about the things that make you confident. You want them to be baked into your subconscious. And I don't want to go too deep here. I'll let you get to the next question. We'll see where it takes us. But the way that you alter the subconscious mind, one way that anyone can do this consciously is through repetition. The same things, the same way every time. This is the reason why salespeople practice. What do you say when someone says, I got to talk to my wife? What do you say when they have to talk to my spouse? What do you say when they say, I don't have the money? What do you say when they say, well, my CFO has to approve it? What do you say when they say, let me think about it? All right. If you're ready to handle it and you had 10 different ways to handle that objection, you can deal with it. You're confident next time somebody throws it at you. But if you haven't done the work and someone says, I need to think about it, you're sitting there like, okay. Boom, you just lost the sale because you didn't handle their objection. All right. All they're doing is testing you. Find out if you're a professional or not. All right. They will still buy if they say, I'll think about it. You just have to have a response to I'll think about it. Or you have to handle I'll think about it before they say I'll think about it. That's professionalism. Professionals see it before it happens and then they handle it. This is the reason why if you watch anybody who watches, let's say boxing. I was watching a video of Floyd Mayweather. You watch boxing, Jesse? You're a fan? Okay. You take somebody like Floyd Mayweather and what makes him so great? Yes, he's fast and he has the shoulder roll and all that. The thing is, he sees what you're about to do before you do it. So he hits you before you hit him. And by the middle of the fight, you don't want to throw any punches because you know every time you do, you're going to miss and get hit. Why is that? Because he has seen it before you did it. He's seen everything before it even happens. Same thing in basketball. Or you hear a football player like Tom Brady. You'll hear athletes, and this happens in all spaces, but I'm using sports for example. They'll say the game slows down. What does that mean? When they say the game slows down, the game slows down means they can anticipate the movements of the opponent before the opponent even makes the move. So it's almost like they're playing chess against you, but they're playing 10 levels ahead of you. So they already know what you're going to do before you do it. So then by the time you do it, they already scored a touchdown. And you're like, how the hell did that happen? And then people say, well, this guy's just talented. That's not talent. All right. That's preparation. That's discipline. And that's what separates the pros from the amateurs.
Audience, listen to this guy. That right there was amazing. It's everything that we shout from the mountaintops on a regular basis, especially in our sales world. We are in, in my audience, most of them are not only in sales, some are just in general, but most of them are in-home sales. So they literally have one shot tray going into the home.
That's right.
And that's why these are so important. And the best close that any sales rep can have out there is a masterful presentation. It's when you finish and get to the end, they already say yes. You don't have objections to get over with. They're already ready to move forward because you've addressed every objection that they may have. So many times, including myself, I've done it. We talk ourselves out of sales, right? We've already had it. So I want to go back and talk a little bit about these 3 simple steps. So I listened to your book thoroughly. And I have a lot of notes and a lot of things. And I'd like you to explain, because I thought that was just brilliant, the way you broke down these 3 simple steps and why it's important for salespeople.
Okay. 3 simple steps to what outcome?
For your sales discipline book, pretty much let people know that you're alive and you're here, you're available. So like they have to know you exist, right? And then you have to address the problem. And then most importantly, you got to ask for the sale.
Right. Okay. So the 3 things I call it the present, and then you talk about the attributes, or as the word I'm looking for, it's escaping me, but the attributes of what you're offering, and then you ask for the money. So the presentation is, first of all, you have to be clear on what problems people have. So one challenge that salespeople don't necessarily have, but a lot of entrepreneurs have this problem. Entrepreneurs, we tend to be very creative, is that we'll come up with an idea for a product or service, but we have not vetted that anybody actually wants it. So we create something and then we try to sell it on spec. All right. And selling on spec, for those who don't know what that means you make something without knowing if there's a buyer for it, and then you hope that you find a buyer. So you see people do this with houses. They'll build the house and then they'll try to find somebody to buy the house. And usually, if they know what they're doing, maybe it'll work. But the point is, as entrepreneurs, we have to discipline ourselves to only create the products that people ask for. So simple way to do this is ask people, what do you want? Then you make that. All right. As simple as that. So it's like in the sales world, I heard somebody use this. They said, they talk to people and someone asks them, what do you do for a living? And they say, I'm a salesperson. The person says, okay, well, what do you sell? And they say, well, it depends. What do you want to buy? Because that's the answer. Whatever you want to buy, that's what I sell. I want to offer you something you don't want. So the first thing is being clear on what problem people have, because people buy things to solve problems. People don't buy things to gain, most of the time, to gain pleasure. Most of the time they buy to solve a problem. So if I go to the restaurant and I buy a burger and fries, it's not because I'm trying to gain the pleasure of a burger and fries, because I'm hungry. and a burger and fries is what I want. So I buy the food to solve my hunger problem. I buy a bottle of water to solve my thirst. I buy a car to solve my transportation issues. I buy a gym membership to solve my I want to have big muscles issue. All right. So it depends on what the problem is. I will buy that. So when you're clear on what problem a person or people have, now you know, okay, I need to create a solution for that. Then what you do is you either create, if you're an entrepreneur, or you get access to the solution. So let's just say I know people have a problem of transportation. They need to get from this side of town to the other side in 20 minutes every day to go to work. Okay, so they need a way to get there. I don't have to go create a car. I can go get a job at the Acura dealership and I can sell cars. Now I have access to the solution. Now, as the middleman between the company and the customer, I get paid. That's called commission. So now you just identify, either make a solution or you get access to a solution. So let's say somebody has a problem with sales discipline. I go create the book, Sales Discipline. Okay, here's a solution. Now, the next thing is you have to let people know you have it. Hey, everybody, you know that problem you have with not being disciplined in your sales? I solved that problem with this book, this course, this training, this program, this workshop, this 7-day program, whatever it is. I give you my solution and I tell you why it solves your problem. That's called marketing. Letting people know that you have a solution to their problem is marketing. When your marketing is done right, sales are easy because the only people you're talking to are people who are enticed by the marketing, which is, I have a solution to your problem. So the only people who are going to raise their hand are people who actually have that problem and they agree that you have the solution based on what you said. So then when you're selling, all you had to do is reiterate what the marketing already said, show them that you have the solution, you tell them what it costs to get it, and then you have to actually ask for the money. And the biggest problem, Jesse, I'm sure you know this, a lot of salespeople have, they don't ask for the money. You can't make money if you don't ask for it. You got to ask for the money. And this goes right back to what you just asked. So it's, I love the way you put these questions together, because if you have no discipline, therefore no confidence, you're not going to ask for the money because you don't have the confidence to ask for the money. All right. So you have to have the confidence to ask for the money. And the only way you feel confident asking for the money is if you know in your mind that what you have presented to your prospect actually solves a problem that you know they have, and you know that your product will stand up to the problem that they have. But if you don't ask, it's because you don't believe in it. And because somewhere along the line, you dropped the ball. You didn't do your homework the whole way. Do your homework properly. Asking for the money is easy.
Thank you. And yes, the number one problem salespeople have is actually asking for the order. And right. Most salespeople think they're asking for the order, Dre, and they're really not. Well, how does this sound to you? What do you think? They're not taking an action to the consumer and really asking them to make a decision one way or another.
Right.
And they're just allowing themselves for another objection is what happens. So thank you so much for that. In the next part of that book, you talked about goals and what the goal was, have clarity. It's so important to have clarity on it. But then that clarity has to turn into action. Right. And then from there, you talked about, and I was so profound, I wrote it down. I thought it was amazing. And I think not only myself, but I think people in general get caught up on writing down too many goals. Robert Quick, I don't know if you know him, a quick mindset guy. He does phenomenal stuff. But what you hit is right. And he talks about don't make too many goals because your dopamine can't handle it, right? If you don't accomplish your goals. But you talk about just writing one goal down for that day and making that your success story. Why is that so important?
The goal concept?
Yeah, that one goal. It says, what's the one thing that will make that day a success?
Right. I still do that to this day. Every day I do that. And the reason why that matters just because it gives you clarity. It connects right to what you said before that. Clarity is the elixir for apathy, for slow movement, for frustration, and for procrastination. And I work with a lot of entrepreneurs. And the biggest challenge that most entrepreneurs have is that they have too many ideas, not enough execution. They start too many things that they don't finish. And it's the same thing with salespeople. There are so many things you could do. You can file this paperwork. You can respond to all this email. You can do all this busy work. And you never get around to doing what you're supposed to be doing, which is talking to people who can give you money. All right, that's the job. All right, talking to people who can give you money and showing them what you have that can actually lead to them giving you the money. That's the actual job. So we get caught up in the admin task, the clerical task. So clarity puts a target on the bullseye of where we need to go. So the example that I use for this is if you get in your car and you open up Google Maps or your navigation system, whatever you have in your vehicle or your phone, and you put an address in the navigation system. Now the car knows where you're trying to go. It knows where you're at, it knows where you're trying to go, and it tells you exactly what steps to take. But now you compare that to getting in the car and you're in some town you've never been before. You have a car you rented, but you have no directions. You just start driving. Now, by the end of the day, you're going to be out of gas, but you didn't get anywhere because you didn't know where you were going. So what clarity does is it tells you exactly where to go. And it also clarity is also a form of decision making. Now, this word decision is very important because in working with entrepreneurs, again, a lot of entrepreneurs have more ideas than they have time and talent and abilities to execute and resources. So what I find myself doing a lot of times when I'm working with professionals, Jesse, is clearing out the nonsense, clearing out everything else so they can focus on what matters the most. That usually comes in the form of me simply asking them questions, and they actually have the answers. They just have too much other nonsense in the space. Now, why does decision making matter? Why do I emphasize that word decision? The word decision, the root of it, the etymology of the word is from a Latin word decidere, and that word means literally to cut off. That's what decision means, to cut off. And when you make a decision, that comes from the root word incision. What is incision? It's a cut. You make an incision, you're cutting something. When you make a decision, you are cutting off every other possibility than the thing that you've decided. That's why decision must be immediately followed by action. If you say you made a decision, but you didn't do anything, you didn't make a decision. You stated a preference. That's not the same thing. A decision means you said, this is what's going to happen. And then you did something that commits you to that thing happening. And it cuts off every other possibility other than that thing happening. And when a person is decisive, what does that mean? Okay, we're not considering any other things. This is what we're going to do. And now we're going to take action on that. That's what decisive means. That's what decision means. And if you're familiar with, I'm sure you heard of Napoleon Hill, Jesse. One of my favorite books, The Laws of Success. The Law of Success. In that book, from that derived the most famous book, Think and Grow Rich. In that book, he lists the 17 principles of success. And also he lists the 31 major causes of failure. Now, this is interesting. I always point this out to people that you notice that there are twice as many ways to fail as there are to succeed. All right, nearly. All right, 31 causes of failure, but only 17 ways to succeed. Number one cause of failure, number one, indecision, is that people don't make decisions. People are slow to make decisions and slow to act on those decisions. And when you're slow to make and act on decisions, it costs you the most valuable resource you have, which is what? Your time. Because you run out of time, is over. You can run out of money. You can be broke and come back. You run out of energy, take a nap. You run out of focus, drink a Red Bull. And you run out of attention, go do something else. Run out of time is over. That's called death. So indecision is the most valuable, most costly mistake any person can make. And when you're clear, you cure yourself of indecision. That's why clarity is so important. So when you have clarity and you know exactly what is the one thing that I could do that will make today a success, the discipline is for every professional is to focus your day first on getting that done so that the day is a success no matter what happens with the rest of the day. Or at least put it into your calendar. So let's say the first 3 hours of your day, you have a meeting that you can't skip. Okay, the first open space in your calendar goes the priority for the day. So if you only get one thing done all day, even if you have 25 goals, but you only get one done, is that one thing that makes the day a win. So you won the day. You win every day for a month. That's 30 wins. Put 30 wins together, they start to compound on top of each other. And now you're several levels ahead of where you were 30 days before. So this is why clarity matters so much. Is you have to know exactly what you're doing, why you're doing it, when you're doing it, where you're doing it, and how you're going to do it. When you're clear on those things and you just do that and you make that a habit and make that a discipline, then you don't end up in the weeds, as they say in the server world. You have to get really clear on where you're going and just get that done, nothing else.
Thank you for that. That was great.
Thank you.
So after that, you talked about knowing your product inside and out, and you kind of went in depth about that. And I think a lot of people don't get, it's not just knowing your product. Yes, know your product inside and out, but what you leaned on is that you are the product.
Mm-hmm.
You got to know yourself as well. And I thought that was profound. Do you want to kind of expand upon why that's so important for a salesperson as well?
Absolutely. So
the product itself and also knowing themselves.
Absolutely. So Jesse, here's the baseline of what Work on Your Game, which is my company. Baseline of what it's about is mindset. Mindset is the baseline of what we do. Now, on top of mindset, we build. Let's say I'm talking to a basketball player. Okay, here's how you dribble and shoot. I'm talking to a salesperson. Here's how you sell and present. Talking to an entrepreneur. Here's how you build your business. And you want to have a domain name and a web. All those are window dressings. The baseline for every human being, I don't care what you're doing. You could be podcasting, you could be a librarian, you could be a construction worker, you can be a salesperson, is that who you are matters more than what you do. Who you are matters more than what you do. Because if people don't believe in you as a person, you can have the perfect product and they're not going to buy it because they don't believe you. And even if your product is just average, if people buy you, they might still buy the product just because they like you. You go into a mall and there's some person working at a kiosk in the middle of the mall and they're selling some cheap lotion. You put a pretty girl there, she'll probably sell some lotion. Why? Because she'll get the men to stop and talk to her. They'll buy the lotion just to keep talking to the girl, even if the product is garbage, right? That's the way it works. If they like you, then they'll buy the product. So that know, like, and trust factor matters a ton. What does it have to do with what we're talking about here? Is that you are the most important product that you always sell. All right. You go to a job interview, they're not buying your resume, they're buying you. Do they believe in you? You on a date, the girl or that guy is buying you. They're not buying where you're from or your background or your dating history. They're buying you. And I can't remember what book I was reading that it was said, but they were talking to these people who are venture capitalists, right? These people who put money into startups. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that one of the venture capitalists said was that when we decide to invest in a company, we're not investing in a company because we're sure they're going to be successful, because this is, by definition, we're gambling. You never know who's going to take off and who's not. Sometimes you invest and you lose money. Sometimes you make money. You never know. You try to do your best guess, but you don't really know. What we're looking for is we're looking at the CEO. We're looking at the head of the company. If you ever watched the TV show Shark Tank, right? On Shark Tank, they're not looking at the whole company. They're looking at that person who's standing in the Shark Tank trying to pitch the company. Do we believe in this guy? Because we don't believe in you, we're not investing. And you notice when you watch Shark Tank, often you'll see Barbara Corcoran. She'll say, "No, I don't trust you." She does that to people all the time. I don't trust. There's something about you that I just don't trust. Everything sounds good, but I don't trust you. And the reason why that matters is because if people don't trust or believe in you, even if everything you said sounds perfect, they ain't buying. They have to buy you. And even if everything you said is just suspect, if they believe in you, they'll invest in you. Because a person is more valuable than the product, because the product can change. The product can evolve. But if I believe in a person, then I may stick with them and make it work. So what does this have to do with everything? The first thing people are selling is you. Notice the thing about the Shark Tank. And I heard, I think it was Mark Cuban or one of those sharks that's on the show. They say that when you're on Shark Tank, and I know a couple people who've been on the show, they said they've been recording. They didn't get aired, but they've been recording. When the entrepreneur walks into the tank, here's what happens first. They walk in and they just stand there because, it's a TV show. So people can't see the cameras, but then the cameras have to get the angles and all of that. When you first walk into the tank on Shark Tank, you have these 5 billionaires sitting there and you just stand there and you just stand there for about 2 minutes and nobody's saying anything. You just stand there and they're just staring at you for 2 minutes. And here's what I say. This is my theory. I've never been on Shark Tank. Here's my theory, Jesse, is that whether or not you get your money depends on what happens in that 2 minutes. Doesn't matter what you said. Is what happens in that 2 minutes. Now, what does that mean? People are like, Dre, how does that make sense? I'll explain to you. Most of communication is nonverbal. All right, everybody's heard that before, right? Most communication is not what you say. It's how you say it, is your energy, and it's how people read you outside of your words. Yes, your words should be good, but it's what they read. Are you rooted? Are you present? Are you still? Are you calm? Are you containing your energy? Are you leaking your energy? Are you making eye contact? Do you read as a person who believes in themselves, or do you read as a person who's nervous and is not sure of themselves? This is what people invest in. When people buy a product from you, they're looking at you and saying, do I believe this guy? Do I believe that he believes in what he's selling to me? Do I believe that he believes in himself? Do I believe that his answers to my questions, he is actually telling me the truth? And this is all an unconscious conversation that people are having in their heads all the time. The words that we say are really window dressing. They're like maybe 20% of the communication. Doesn't mean you should be sloppy in your words. Have your presentation down. But that's just the logical justification of an emotional response. As we know, people buy on emotion, they justify with logic. What is the emotion? The emotion is what we feel instinctively in another person. Do I believe you? If I believe you, I'll buy from you, even if I don't even like the product, because I believe in you. And if I don't believe in you, the product could be amazing. I will come up with enough excuses to get rid of you. This is how it is. That's how sales works. So when it comes to, I forgot even the question that you were asking me. What was the question again? Let me make sure I'm in.
So you are the product inside and out, and believe me,
Yes.
you're right there with it. I mean, it's all.
Yes.
It makes so much sense for salespeople, and they really need to understand this part.
Right. So you being the product. So they say in all sales, doesn't matter who you ask. I remember I was reading a book I like to read a lot, is The Secrets of Closing a Sale, Zig Ziglar. All right, famous book on sales. It's about 12 hours of audio. Everybody should get the book, listen to it. You could probably find it on YouTube for free. It's 12 hours long, probably 15 hours. And one of the things Zig says early in the book is that you are the product. If you are not sold, you will not sell anybody anything. You must be sold on you. Look in the mirror and sell yourself on yourself first. Then you go sell a house. Then you go sell a vacuum cleaner. Then you go sell your book. You got to be sold on you, because people can read it off of you. If they do not believe you believe in yourself, they will not listen to anything you say. Robert Greene talks about this in the 48 Laws of Power. You must be sold on you. And if you're not sold on you, you cannot fake that. You cannot fake presence. You cannot fake stillness. You cannot fake self-belief. You can maybe on social media, but in real life, people can read that off you very easily. This is the reason why a dog notices when you're scared of dogs. Then they start chasing you, right? Animals can sense fear because animals can't talk. All right. So they only go off of the energy and the feel. Humans, because our brains are so big and we think we're so damn smart, we get caught up in the conscious words. But when you just get out of that and you just get into instinctive response, you can tell people's energy without even talking to them. I was just talking to a gentleman today, and I was telling him this. I said, if we went to the airport and we just stood in the airport and just watched people walk by, and I said to you, point out the confident people and point out the not confident people, why would you be 100% accurate? We don't have to listen to any of them talk. We don't have to know who they are. Just point out who's confident and who's not. You can tell just by watching them walk by. Why is it? Because it's an unconscious communication. And when you're rooted in that unconscious and you're unconsciously confident in a way that people can feel it without even knowing who you are, they will buy from you. Doesn't even matter what you're selling.
I love it. Thank you. Sure. And then the next one is knowing your client's history. And you talked about the big domino.
Yes.
Needs and cared about. I wrote down a lot of notes. I'm a note taker. I'm taking notes even now. So, and that's for anybody in the audience. If you're not taking notes, you're not learning enough. You should always take notes. I'm a big believer in that. Please, can you expand upon the big domino and knowing your client's history and understanding that?
Absolutely. So the big domino is a marketing concept. The first person I heard use that terminology is a guy named Russell Brunson. And he has a company called ClickFunnels. And he talked about it when it comes, he's explaining the concept of marketing, and he's 100% spot on when he explains it. He says this, that the big domino is the number one consideration that your prospect has in their mind, that if and when you satisfy that number one consideration, all other considerations are now rendered insignificant, and they must buy, and they will buy if you handle that one consideration. Now, why does that matter? I'll give you an example. Let's say I'm a salesperson and I'm selling a minivan to a soccer mom. Now, the minivan has some nice cup holders, it has tinted windows, it has a Bose sound system, and it has some really nice floor mats. But is any of those the big domino for the soccer mom? The answer is no. The big domino for the soccer mom is she wants very secure brakes and really good seatbelts because she has 12 kids in the car and she wants to make sure they're safe, especially when she's driving in the rain or on some windy road. So if I can sell the soccer mom on the safety features of the vehicle, all the other features of the vehicle are insignificant and she's going to buy the van. So I don't have to sell her on all 300 features of the car because there literally are 300 features. That's not why she's buying. She's buying because of that safety feature of the vehicle. If I'm selling a sports car to some guy who wants to show off, and again, you find these things out by talking to your customer. Now you find out why they care. So I'm selling a sports guy to some guy who wants to show off. He wants to pull up. I live in South Florida. So this guy wants to pull up to a nice restaurant in Miami in a valet circle and hop out of a Lamborghini and have everybody looking at him like, who's that? And he wants girls wanting to take pictures next to his car. That's what he wants. That's the feeling that he's buying. I'm not selling him on the cup holders. I'm not selling him on the brakes. He doesn't care. I'm not selling him on any of the inside features of the car. He doesn't care about any of that. I'm not selling him on the size of the trunk or how fast it goes 0 to 60 or the gas mileage, which is terrible. He doesn't care. All he cares about is that when I pull up, I'm going to feel like I'm the man because everybody's looking at me because I'm the guy with that car. If I can sell him on that image, he's buying the car. In cash, I don't even have to negotiate. All right. So I need to know my prospect. How do you get to know your prospect? You ask questions, you shut up, and you listen. That's how you sell. That's what sales is. Sales is not flashy talking. Sales is not some great presentation. I know you all watch YouTube and you see these sales guys in their ads. Of course, you got to talk in your ad, right? That's the only way you get people to hear you. But in a real sales conversation, those of you who are actual salesperson, I'm assuming most of you listeners are that, especially those of you who do it belly to belly. You're sitting in people's living rooms. That's real sales. Most of your sales presentations should be listening, not talking. Yes, you have your presentation. Yes, you say the things you have to say. You get your points across. But for the most part, especially when I'm doing sales, a lot of my sales calls are on Zoom like this. I ask a question and then I'm quiet. And I tell people this. If I'm on a sales call, Jesse, for an hour on Zoom, I'm talking for about 6 minutes. My prospect is talking for the other 54. And the less I talk, the more sales I make. All I do is ask open questions. And here's the key point. I'm presently listening. I'm actively listening, meaning whatever they say to me, I'm listening, I'm registering, and I can give it back to them in my own language, which shows them that I'm paying attention. Why does that matter? Because most people don't listen. Everybody talks. Nobody listens. So when you listen actively, you separate yourself from everybody else that prospect is dealing with because their own spouse doesn't listen to them. Their kids don't listen to them. Their coworkers don't listen to them. Nobody listens. So when you finally listen, wow, somebody's listening to me. I like this person. Not because you're a great speaker, because you're listening and nobody else listens. So now they like you. And guess what? When people like you, what do? They trust you. And when they trust you, they buy. So that's really what it comes down to is your ability to be present and staying in the moment with another person. And when they feel that and you're giving them something that they can't get anywhere else, which is not talking, because everybody talks, it's listening. That's when you separate yourself from everybody else.
That was my next question. I can't ask anymore because that's the next one. Prospects talks, not you. And that's
right.
Well, tell me a little bit about those ants. Man, those ants can crawl up and get you. You know, those ants you talk about.
Yes.
This is in your work on your game book. I thought it was so brilliant. I think every salesperson needs to hear this because it happens to us all the time. Can you explain what ants really means?
Yes.
And how to get rid of them?
Ants are automatic negative thoughts. So it's an acronym. Automatic negative thoughts are baked into the subconscious mind. And they are the negative thoughts that come up immediately as soon as we think of something consciously. And then our subconscious mind immediately starts flooding us with rebuttals. So there's one thing to get a rebuttal from your prospects, another thing to get a rebuttal from yourself. And human beings get more rebuttals from ourselves than we get from other people. And a lot of times, and I've been online for 20 years, Jesse, and I've had a lot of people come to me and tell me how there are negative people around them. I have negative people at my job, negative people in my community, negative people in my family, negative people at home. The most negative person is in the mirror. And I'm talking to everybody who's listening to this. The most negative person in your life is the person in the mirror. Why? Because you talk to you more than anybody else talks to you. And nothing that another person says to you can affect you unless you already have something in yourself that agrees with it. So if someone comes up to me and says, Dre, you have blue hair, that would not affect me because I don't believe it. Right now on top of my head, there's no hair. All right. So I don't believe it. So it doesn't bother me. Now, if someone says something to me that there's already a part of me that believes it, now it's going to bother me because what they said tethered to something that I've already been saying to myself. And that's why we have to get our own internal conversation under control with the automatic negative thoughts. Now, why are they automatic? Why are they negative? Well, the subconscious mind controls most of our thinking. Jesse, 85% of our thinking is subconscious, and we're not even aware that it's happening. Only 15% of our thoughts are things that we tell ourselves to think about. So if you ask somebody, what are you thinking about? And they answer, that's a conscious thought, if they're telling you the truth, if they're even telling you the truth. Most of our thoughts are unconscious, and they happen over and over and over and over again. This is the reason why we have habitual thoughts. And why are they negative? Well, going back to the quote unquote caveman days, the human beings had to make sure that we did things for survival, that we just didn't die. That means we got to be careful which berries we eat because they might be poisonous. We got to be careful of other cavemen because they might want to kill us. We got to be careful of a sound around the corner because it might be a saber-tooth tiger. So we have these negative thoughts that were designed for self-preservation to make sure we don't die. Now, the world that we live in today, most of us, when we walk out of our house, we're not worried about losing our lives before we get back. But that lizard brain wiring, that caveman wiring, quote unquote, is still in us. So those automatic negative thoughts happen in every human being by default, unless we condition ourselves otherwise. So I mentioned the subconscious mind earlier. The subconscious mind can be programmed. This is the good thing about everything I just told you. since 85% of our thoughts are unconscious, what if that 85% was all positive? What if it was self-reinforcing? What if it was building you up and speaking life into you instead of pulling you down and telling you what you can't do? Now, here's the problem. Most people are not aware of what I'm about to explain, Jesse, so they can't take advantage of it. It's available. If you don't know, you can't do anything about it. So we call this unconscious incompetence. You don't know what you don't know, and it's hurting you. So the people who are listening, here's what you do to program the subconscious mind. First of all, understand there are 3 ways of doing it. Number 1 is repetition, which I mentioned earlier. Tell yourself the same things every single day. You will start to believe it. Doesn't matter what it is. It could be a lie. You'll believe it. You tell yourself anything often enough. This is the reason why every person can understand the language I'm speaking right now. Most of you can read and write. Why? Because when you were in kindergarten, you did the ABC songs 10 million times to where you know the tune, even if I say ABC song. Everybody knows it, right? Everybody knows all 26 letters. Letters create words. Words create sentences. Sentences, paragraphs. Paragraphs, books. And those create thoughts. Repetition. The second way is through immersion. Immersion is when you're in an environment where you can't take in anything other than what's happening there. So give yourself the thought of being immersed in water. If you're underwater, probably the only thing you're thinking about at that moment is the fact that you're underwater, even if you can swim, because eventually you got to come out of the water. But in that moment, you're only focused on being underwater. You're not thinking about your bank account or your bank balance when you're underwater. You're thinking about, if I don't get out of this water, it doesn't matter how much money's in that account because I can't spend it. All right, I'm going to drown. So immersion is you're in an environment where you are surrounded by a certain energy and you cannot engage in anything else. That's an immersive environment. And there are some people who do events that are like this, immersive environments. There's a reason why people do mindfulness, meditation, yoga exercises every day, Jesse. Why? Because it's an immersive environment. You put yourself into an immersive mental state. When people work out, they put headphones on. Why? So they can zone out and immerse themselves in a certain energy for that hour, and they're not focused on anything else. And this is how a cyclist, a runner, a weightlifter, someone playing a sport, they get into the zone, right? And running, they call it the runner's high. That's immersive energy. You're immersed in that energy, and then you can channel that energy into other things you do in your life. That's the second way to program the subconscious mind, is to immerse it in a certain way over and over again. The third way, and let me say one more thing on that immersion. These first 2, repetition and immersion, is the reason why salespeople need to work with other salespeople. Because in the sales world, you do most of your sales by yourself, like it's you and the prospect. But you practice with other salespeople. Why? Because if there's 100 salespeople in a room and everybody's working on handling objections, everyone's working on how do you respond when someone says this? How do you respond when someone says, well, I'm not ready to make a decision yet? If you're doing that and everybody in the room is doing it, you're immersed in that environment where everybody's talking about and thinking about selling. You're probably going to get better at selling because everybody you talk to is thinking about selling. Same way, if everybody in the room is talking about lifting weights, you'll probably get better at lifting weights. If everyone's talking about one specific thing and you're in a room where that's all that's being talked about, you have no choice but to get better at that thing because you're immersed in the environment. Does that make sense? That's the immersion. That's number 2, program the subconscious mind. So repetition, immersion. Number 3 is emotionalization. Emotionalization. This is when you hit an emotional peak in a moment in such a way that it alters your subconscious mind, even with limited or even one exposure. For example, let's just say you're a person who's always texting and driving, and you know you're not supposed to text and drive, and you see the signs on the highway that say, don't text and drive, don't text and drive, yet you keep doing it. Then one day you get into a car accident while you're texting and driving. You don't get hurt, but the person in the other car gets hurt, or your passenger gets hurt, or your dog is in the backseat and your dog dies because you were texting and driving. Do you need to be told again not to text and drive? Probably not. You probably will never text and drive ever again. You might not even bring your phone in the car anymore. Just based off that one experience, because it's so emotionally overloading to you that you don't have to be told more than once the same thing. So the good thing about the emotionalization way of programming the subconscious mind, Jesse, is that it only needs one exposure if it's a high enough emotional trigger. Immersion is something that can happen maybe a few times. And repetition is something that may take the longest, but is the easiest to do because it's much more logical, it's much more conscious. So anyone can use any one of these methods to program the subconscious. Ideally, use all 3. You put yourself in all 3 environments, you can change the subconscious mind very quickly. And what you program the subconscious mind with are positive things that you want to believe about yourself. What are they? So here's how you do that. Now, I'll break this down. The process to achieving things in life, Jesse, is being, then doing, then having, in that order. Be, do, have. The problem that a lot of people have, Jesse, is that they do it backwards. They say, let me get the result first. Let me make a whole bunch of money first. Then I'll do a whole bunch of hard work. And then I'll have a different mindset. and they don't get it because they have the equation backwards. And even the people who think a step ahead of that, they often have it wrong too, because they say, okay, I want to have this outcome. I want to make a bunch of money. I want to be the top salesperson in my company. Okay, I'll just do a whole bunch of hard work. So they get straight to the doing trying to get to the having, but they never ask themselves the question about the being. This is how a whole lot of people, especially in Western society, America is very guilty of this more than any other place in the world, of a whole bunch of hardworking people who are chasing productivity, but are not achieving the outcome because they're trying to do. And this is the hustle culture. This is the wake up early, stay late. This is the grinding. This is the team no sleep. And there's nothing wrong with grinding and working hard. My company is called Work on Your Game. I'm not against work at all. At the same time, there comes a point for a professional where more hard work is not the solution to your problem. Hard work gets you to a certain level of ability. But once you get to that level of ability, you have to start thinking about, okay, how can I start creating leverage where a certain amount of effort produces a multiple of an output rather than effort, output. You can only do that for so long, but for so long. For you're going to run out of time, run out of talent, run out of energy. So that's what I call this the do loop. Let me do stuff. Did I get the result? No, do more stuff. Did I get the result? No, do more stuff. This is how people just end up running themselves into the ground. This is especially true with professionals, people in high skill professional careers, salespeople, lawyers, entrepreneurs. That's just work to solve the problem, and they create new problems and they solve it with the same thing that created the problem before they burn out and they can't do it anymore. So, and it leads to heart attacks, literally heart attacks. So the question is, who do I need to be? Who do I need to be as a person? Now, you start answering that question. The hardest thing for a lot of people, Jesse, is they don't know how to answer the question. Most people, if they never considered this concept and say, who do you need to be? They're going to start telling you things they're going to do because they don't understand, because they've been programmed to think about doing stuff. So most people, you ask them, who do I need to be? They'll say something like a hard worker or a really good salesperson. Or I need to be really smart. I got to be informed. Those are actions. Those are not beings. Being is, I need to be present. I need to be fully engaged. I need to believe in myself at the highest possible level. I need to carry myself in a certain way. I need to have a certain type of internal and external posture. I need to be rooted and grounded in my space where I sit and where I stand. I need to be the center of gravity in every room that I'm in. Those are beings. The thing about being, ladies and gentlemen, for people to understand, is not something that you can measure or count. You can measure it or count it is not being. That's doing. Doing are things that can be measured and counted. Being is something that is intangible. And the reason why a lot of people don't understand it, they can't grasp it and they don't do it, is because people have a hard time grasping these abstract concepts, Jesse. And the thing is, these abstract concepts, the things that you can't see, touch, or feel, these are the most valuable things. The things that you can't see, you can't touch, can't feel, they don't cost any money. You can't buy them at the store. They're available if you're aware of them. These are the things that people least value, but is the thing that makes the most impact. So who do I need to be as a person? When that being changes with you telling yourself who you need to be, you literally write it down. What type of person do I need to be? You write it down. Everything that you want to describe yourself as. Think of the most confident people you've ever known. The 3 most confident people you ever known or know of. Describe their personal traits, their personal attributes, not the things they do, but how they carry themselves. Write it down. And then ask yourself, what if I borrowed all those traits and I was like that? That's the being. You tell yourself that every single day. Literally write it down and literally say it to yourself every day. That programs the subconscious mind. Now, the subconscious mind is most open at 2 points of the day. Number 1, when you first wake up, first 10 minutes, because you haven't crowded your mind with thoughts yet. Hopefully you're not checking your email while you're still laying in bed. Your subconscious mind is open when you first wake up. Give it these things when you first wake up, because it's open and listening. And then the last 10 minutes before you go to sleep, because this is when you're starting to fade off and it's the last thing you put in your head. A lot of people do things like watch the news before they go to sleep. That's a bad idea, because the news is designed to tell you things to keep you anxious and nervous. You don't want to listen to that before you go to sleep. You don't watch it. This is why you don't have kids watch scary movies, because they have nightmares. This is the last thing in their subconscious. Last thing in your subconscious should be something that you want to imprint on your mind. Last thing you read, listen to, or do before you go to sleep should be something positive you imprint on your mind. It's the reason why couples say things like, we don't want to go to bed mad at each other, right? Because that imprints negativity on your subconscious. So whatever that is, first 10 minutes, last 10 minutes, those positive things, that starts to alter the subconscious mind. That's immersion. It's repetition. And depending on what it is, it can also be emotionalization. So you're combining all three modalities all at the same time and make it positive. You're going to start to behave in a way that you program the subconscious, and you won't even consciously be aware of it. Because again, the subconscious is, by definition, you're not consciously thinking about that you're doing it, but it is who you are. And the key to changing behavior in life is not consciously thinking about what am I going to do. It's drilling it over and over again, Jesse, until it is who you are, to the point that you don't even have to think about it. That's what separates the 20% from the 80%, to borrow Pareto's principle.
Thank you so much. This is great stuff. I'm trying to come up with better questions that my next question you answer ahead of time. So let's talk a little bit about work on your game. This is, your entire kind of business has worked around this whole idea of work on your game. It's a mindset shift with it as well. We have the 4 pillars: discipline, confidence, mental toughness, and personal initiative. We kind of talked about all of those. Is there anything that you wanted to expand on those 4 pillars that you feel are important for the audience as well?
Yes. The most important part is having some game. I mean, it's called work on your game for a reason. So I want to make sure people understand this. What does game mean, first of all? Game is the thing that you're doing, Jesse, where you're looking to make an impact, or from where you're trying to get your results, the vehicle you're going to use to be impactful in life, whether that's in sales, whether it's with your family, whether it's in the community, whether it's in business, whatever it is that you're doing, that's the game. Now, to have game means you understand what game you're in, you understand how that game actually works, and you understand how the outputs of that game are measured. Meaning, when you're in, for example, when you're in the basketball world, the game is winning the games on the scoreboard, because the sports world, what makes the sports world so great is that there's an objective arbiter known as the scoreboard. And it doesn't matter what everybody in the stands thinks, because at the end of the game, we look at the scoreboard. Whoever has the most points wins the game. Now, you don't have to like me. I got the most points. I won. Give me the trophy. That's how it works in sports. Business world is a little bit different, because it's much more subjective. It's much more based on opinions. Okay. Whose opinion? All right. What is their opinion based on? What is the subjectivity? You need to know. And when you know, that's how you find out how you win the game. I.e., you go to a job interview. Okay, they're interviewing 3 people for one job. All right, what are they measuring on? You should know. Who is the other candidates? You should know. All right, what are they most looking for in a candidate? You should know. That's part of your game. You should know what they're looking for, so you can best position yourself to win the competition. That's part of having game, is that you need to know the game that you're in. The issue that a lot of people have, a lot of professionals have this issue, entrepreneurs as well, is that they think they're in one game, they're actually in another game. Now, I talk to entrepreneurs, for example, with books. We're talking about books here. And a lot of entrepreneurs who write books think they're in the business of writing a book. You're not in the writing book business. You're in the selling book business, because nobody buys your book. Doesn't matter that you wrote it, right? Because nobody will know what you said. They got to actually buy it and read it in order to get something out of it. If you wrote the book and it's sitting on the shelf and nobody buys it, does it matter that you wrote it? No, because nobody saw it. Nobody knows what's in it. So you're in the sales business. You're not in the writing book business. You're in the selling book business. Even publishing companies are in the selling business, not the publishing business. And a lot of people think they're in one game when they're actually in another one. And this is another challenge. It's a different conversation with social media and internet. A lot of content creators think they're in the business of just putting stuff on the internet. Well, how are you going to make any money? All right. They're making money off you. You're not making any money. Whole different game. You got to know the game that you're in. Their game is different from your game. So having game means knowing what game you're in and knowing what you need to do to actually get the desired outcome. And that is clarity. It goes right back to the question you asked me earlier, Jesse. The clarity of where are we going here and why are we doing this? This is the proverbial seeing the forest from the trees. So that's what the game is. Now, how do you actually do this? I touched on this earlier. You start with your principles. The principle is, where are you trying to go here? What's your goal? What are you trying to do? So let's take someone that everyone knows. Let's take Michael Jordan. All right, Michael Jordan, great basketball player. Many people say arguably the best of all time. And Michael Jordan's principle, if you really looked at the way he conducted himself, his principle was, I dominate everybody on the basketball court. That was his principle. It wasn't score a lot of points. It wasn't sell a lot of sneakers. It wasn't be famous. It was, I dominate everyone on the basketball court. Because he dominated everyone on the basketball court, that was his principle. He got all those other things. And I'll use this as an example because I was just talking about this yesterday. You notice that a lot of athletes these days are trying to get the results of Michael Jordan, but they don't follow his principles. They're trying to get his results. They all want to be famous. They all want to sell sneakers. They all want to have 10 different things going on besides playing their sport. They all want to be an influencer. They all want to be an icon. Yet, you never hear any of them say, I just want to dominate everybody in the sport. I just want to win games. I just want to win championships. Very rarely you hear people say that. Now they all want to make money, be famous, be influencers, be icons, sell sneakers, have a clothing line, be famous on social media. Yet they forgot about the main thing. What's the main thing? What was Michael Jordan's main thing? I dominate everybody on the basketball court. He only focused on that, and he still got all the other things without trying. And here's the other funny thing I tell you about Jordan. Notice that he got more of it than all the rest of them, and he wasn't even trying to do it. He made more money than everybody. He wasn't trying to make money. He's more famous than everybody. He wasn't trying to be famous. He has the biggest brand of everyone. He wasn't trying to build a brand. He has the most fans of everyone. He wasn't trying to have fans. All he was focused on was dominating on the court. And because he did that, all the other things came to him instead of him chasing them. These days, people are trying to chase 10 different things. And you know the saying about chasing 2 rabbits at the same time. You catch neither one. But what's going to happen when you try to chase 10 rabbits? You don't catch any of them. And I'm bringing up Michael Jordan because it's singularity of focus, i.e. clarity. The game, part of your game is singularity of focus. What is the focus? Keyword, the focus, the priority. That's a singular word, not priorities. No such thing as priorities. That's an oxymoron. Priority means first, one, one thing, not 10, not 3, not 17, one. What is the one thing? There's a book called The One Thing, right? What's the one thing? All right, what is it? Ask most people what's the one thing, they can't answer. Even highly successful people, they can't answer the question. What's the one thing? They don't know. What's the one thing? So game is clarity of principle. And I mentioned principle for a reason. Principle is the main thing that you stand on. It does not change. It's etched in stone. It is not open to change. It is not subjective to alteration. It is a clear principle. Everything I do is based on this. Michael Jordan, you read any books about Michael? Everything was based on him dominating on the basketball court. There was nothing next to it. There was nothing equal. When Michael Jordan retired, you remember Michael Jordan's career. All right, he retired in 93. He goes and plays baseball, right? He comes back and he loses in the playoffs when he came back in that shortened season. And then he was right before 1996, where he won the 3 championships again. He was filming a movie called Space Jam. Everybody remembers Space Jam. So when the studio came to Michael Jordan, a lot of people don't know this. They came to Michael Jordan and said, we want you to do this movie. Michael said, I'll do the movie under one condition. This cannot take away from my training. Like, I need to get ready to dominate people on the basketball court because that's my principle. My life is about dominating on the basketball court. So if I can't dominate on the basketball court, I don't want to do a movie. So you must accommodate my principle of dominating on the court in order for me to do the movie. So how they solved this problem was on the set where they filmed Space Jam, they built a gym. If people look this up, this is on YouTube. They built a makeshift gym with weights, a basketball court, everything on the Hollywood studio set. Because Michael Jordan said, I will not do this movie if it takes away from my getting ready to do the main thing, which is dominating on the court. Because why would anybody want to see Michael Jordan in a movie if he wasn't Michael Jordan? Michael Jordan understood the reason they want to see this movie because I'm Michael Jordan. What makes me Michael Jordan? Makes me Michael Jordan is that they know when I get on the court, I'm going to dominate. That means you can't take away from me doing the main thing to do this other not main thing. Now, how many athletes these days would you hear say that? Answer is 0. None of them, because they're all trying to do 10 different things. So they built the studio. He trained in between sets, and he would invite other players to come play with him and all of that. And that's why the next 3 years, Michael Jordan didn't miss a single game. Talk about load management these days. He didn't miss a single game. He won the All-Star MVP twice. He won the championship all 3 times. He won all 3 finals MVPs and didn't miss a single game 3 years straight. That's precision when you're clear on your principles. But let's continue. That's the principle. Principles lead to structure. When your principles are clear, the structure is easy. Michael Jordan said, my principle is dominating on the court. So when they came to him and said, do a movie, he said, okay, you have to structure it around my principle. My principle is dominating on the court. Build me a gym. You won't build a gym? No, I'm not doing it. Find somebody else. Guess what they did? They built the gym because the structure said structure follows principle. When your principles are clear, it's easy to figure out what to do. My principle says dominate on the basketball court. Okay, how do I dominate on the basketball court? My whole life is based around that principle. So structure, when the structure is clear, that leads to discipline. The byproduct of structure is discipline. If I say my structure is dominating on the court, well, principle is dominating on the court. Structure is you built me a gym. Okay. Now, what's the structure? I'm going to work out every day from this time to this time. My trainer's coming at this time. I'm going to have other guys come and play with me at that time. I'm going to recover at this time. I'm going to shoot the movie at this time, fitting around my schedule. And the discipline naturally happens. What is discipline? If you ask most people what discipline is, Jesse, it means what? Doing the same things the same way every time in a consistent way that people can see it, and they start to associate you with the behavior. That's pretty much how people see discipline. Somebody sees you go to the gym every day, they say, this guy's disciplined. They see you practicing all the time, he's disciplined. They see you recording all the time, it's discipline. Discipline is how you show up consistently. And people know you're going to show up, and you know you're going to show up, even when you don't feel like showing up. That's the discipline. We got a whole concept about that called the third day. So discipline, when executed consistently, Jesse, leads to what? Confidence. When you're consistently doing the same things the same way all the time, you tend to believe in yourself more because you know you've done the work. When I know I've done the work of practicing my sales pitch and handling objections and closing deals, I'm very confident in the next sales call you put me on because I know I can do it. I've done it already. I've already practiced it. There's nothing they could say to me that I haven't heard. I'm ready for it. That leads to confidence. When you are highly confident in your performance, or you're highly confident, that leads to performance. Confidence produces high level performance. A confident singer. Beyonce's on stage. She's very confident when the show starts. Why? Because she already did the work. She's very confident. She knows she can sing. She knows she can dance. She knows she can sing and dance at the same time. She knows all the choreography. Michael Jordan is confident that he'll beat somebody. I remember when down here in Miami, Dwayne Wade, a player for the Heat, he had a sneaker. He was signed to the Jordan brand. And they did like a press conference, and Michael Jordan came to the press conference to introduce Dwayne Wade as the newest endorsee of the Jordan brand. And somebody asked Dwayne Wade, do you think you could beat Michael Jordan in a game? And Dwayne Wade said, yeah, I think I could beat him in a game. And Michael Jordan's sitting right there. You know how Michael Jordan is. So Michael Jordan said, well, he thinks he can beat me. I know I can beat him. All right, see, that's performance. Difference between thinking and knowing. And performance comes from a high level of confidence. And confidence comes from the discipline. Michael Jordan knew he'd done more work than Dwayne Wade did, and that's why Michael Jordan's Michael Jordan. I like Dwayne Wade, but he ain't Michael Jordan. That's the performance. When you perform consistently, what do you get? Results. If performance is make sales calls and you're good at it, well, you're going to get results of what? Close deals, sales, commissions. Everybody's happy. Customers happy. Company's happy. You're happy. Even the government makes money off it, taking taxes. All right, everybody wins. All right. When you perform, you produce results. When you produce results consistently, you get rewards, trophies, money, checks, promotions, adulation, happiness, hugs, social media followers, whatever it is you want, magazine covers, whatever you want. Those are results rewards. And the rewards are the reason that we do everything. And the issue is, Jesse, that a lot of people want to jump straight to the rewards without following the process. They have unclear principles, very little structure. They're undisciplined. They have confidence, surface level confidence. Is not real confidence, because when your confidence gets challenged, it shouldn't break you. If your confidence gets challenged and your confidence is real, it doesn't break you. That confidence to performance, performance to the results, results to rewards. And a lot of people want to jump around without following all the steps. And you know what happens when you skip steps? All right. That belies a lack of professionalism. Professionals understand there's a process to everything. You follow the process, you get the outcomes that you want. So answer to your question is having game is all of those pieces: principle, structure, discipline, confidence, performance, results, rewards. That is the game. So when I say work on your game, it's all of that. It's not just one piece of it. It's all of it. And as a professional, the last thing I'll say here to answer this question, you can't pick and choose what parts of the process you want to follow. Professionals have to follow all of the process. You start picking and choosing, you're not a professional. You're cheating the game. And if you cheat the game's going to cheat you. So the principle is you got to do it all. I'll give you one last anecdote. When I was making basketball videos, there was this guy named Kyrie Irving. Most people know him. He still plays. And he was really good with dribbling the basketball. And players would come to me and say, Dre, I want to learn how to do moves like Kyrie Irving. I heard he did this. I heard he did that. Can you show me how to do that one thing that I heard Kyrie Irving did? And I would say to the players, the same thing I'll say to you all, is that you can't take somebody who is highly successful at their thing. You want to emulate their success, but you don't want to live by their ways. You can't do that. You can't pick and choose. So again, let's say I want to be Michael Jordan in basketball. That doesn't just mean shave my head and get some sneakers. Doesn't just mean get some endorsement deals. I got to do everything he did. Not just the parts that feel good to me, not the parts that are convenient. You got to do everything. So they say, well, I heard Kyrie Irving would practice dribbling the basketball by putting the ball in a plastic bag and practicing dribbling that way. I said, maybe he did. But let me tell you what else Kyrie Irving did. He probably got up at 5 a.m. and went running for 2 miles in the snow before he went to school. You want to do that too? So you can't pick and choose. So you can't just take the convenient parts and say, well, I heard Kyrie did that, so I'm gonna do that. Okay, well, he did this too. You can't leave out those parts. So people want to take the parts that feel fun and look good. So, hey, this guy was on social media posting, so I'm gonna post on social media. Entrepreneurs do this. Oh, this guy's posting on social media a lot, and I heard he makes a lot of money, so I'm gonna post on social media too. Okay, well, what about all the other stuff he did? Do you know he spends 3 hours a day studying his craft? Do you know how many funnels he launched before he got to the one that made him all the money? All right, how many have you launched? How many books have you read? How many courses have you taken? How many programs have you gone to? Do you have a coach like he does? So you want to pick the easy parts. And the game is you got to do everything that somebody else does if you want to be like them, not just the parts that feel good for you.
So I'm going to go by a quote in the book.
Mm-hmm.
Cardio for your mind.
Yeah.
It really is. I mean, I could listen to you all day. We could do this all day long. And you have so many nuggets and so many good things that not are just for salespeople. I think a lot of these things that we talk about are for life as well. I truly believe working on your game is not just working on your sales game. It's working on your life game, whatever your game is. And to make it a game, make it fun. If they're not having fun doing it, then it makes no sense to me. So you expanded this work on your game into an entire business now, and you even have it available to a university as well that I've seen here. Can you explain more about that and how that can benefit people as well?
Sure. So I have a 4-year college degree, but that's not the reason why I'm an entrepreneur, because there are things that I've learned as an entrepreneur that were not taught and are not taught in college classes. Because all due respect to the professors out there, they're unqualified. And they don't teach sales in school. They don't teach critical thinking in school. They don't teach entrepreneurship in school, because who's going to teach it? You need an actual entrepreneur or an actual salesperson. And the reality is that any actual entrepreneur or actual salesperson would not waste their time being paid by a university, because they can make a lot more money doing it themselves. And that's just, again, all respect to the education system. So I call it Work on Your Game University, because the game that I've been talking about and we've been talking about here, Jesse, you can't get this from a college textbook. You got to get it from somebody who's actually in the field, 10 toes down, as we say, doing it belly to belly and really out there actually doing the work in real life. So Work on Your Game University is all about teaching top 2% discipline to top 2% performers. So people who want to be in the top 2% of what they do, we teach the discipline that goes with that, because in my experience, Jesse, you ask 100 people on the street, do you want to be or need to be more disciplined in some aspect of your life? Every single one of them is going to say yes. And you ask them, why are you not disciplined? Most of them will laugh in spite of themselves and say, I don't know. Just not doing it. I'm not showing up. I got to remember to do it. I got to motivate myself. I got to push myself. Those all sound good, but without the proper structure, as I've already explained, they don't follow the proper process. You can want discipline all you want, but you're never going to get it. So Work on Your Game University is really about weaponizing performance, discipline, and accountability to get to that top 2% of performance and staying there.
I like weaponizing. I like that word. That was good. That was very good. And I'm assuming people can go to DreAllDay.com and enlist in that. So I wanted to give that to the audience as well. I checked it out. I thought it was phenomenal. I think everybody can benefit from it. I mean, as a salesperson, you just make one sale and you're going to pay for it.
That's right.
And, I've done many different courses throughout my sales career. All of them have been beneficial to me, and they've all helped me. Just this podcast alone, there are so many good nuggets for salespeople to get out of and to benefit from. So I'm going to kind of go a little bit off of Work Your Game, and there's just another book you wrote that got a lot of popularity, Super You.
Yeah.
If you know, I mean, it got a lot of popularity in there. I think that, in my opinion, kind of goes like every book, and you have, I can only name 10 titles out of the 40 titles you have. You have so many you've done and so many life lessons with it, but these are the ones that really stuck out to me and why I decided to listen to those first before our podcast. And the Super You portion that really I got out of it was, we have a lot of these self-limiting beliefs that are there. And how does a salesperson or any person listening to this change, become the Super You? Like, what can they do? What did you do to become the Super You? There had to be a moment in your life that changed to become the Super You. I heard the book, so I think I know where that's at. But I'm gonna let you kind of explain to the audience there.
Well, I would tell people, well, first of all, Super You is one of my most popular books, and funny is it's one of the shortest books.
It is.
It's a very popular book because it's all about, again, that one internal trait that everybody wants and everybody's chasing it, which is confidence. And confidence is I tell people it's a recurring membership, recurring payment product. It's not a one-time purchase. You got to keep buying confidence. You don't just get it and you're good. You got to keep paying a membership fee or you lose it. And the membership fee for confidence is discipline, as we've already explained. So super you confidence, the example that I give to let everybody understand it is a guy named Tucker. He was playing high school basketball. He's in the 10th grade. He's maybe the 10th best player on the team and about 12 people on the basketball team. And one day the coach comes in and says, hey, today we're going to do an experiment. I'm going to have each of you pretend to be one of your teammates. And he goes down the line and starts assigning each player to be a different player. And they all know each other, so they know how to. He says, today what you're going to do, whichever player I assign you to be, whatever they do well, you do it. And whatever they do poorly, if they have any bad habits, you do that too. And the reason the coach wanted to do this is to have the players show each other who they were. Because when you play a team sport, you're hearing the coach every day. You may sometimes think that the coach has it out for you, or they're just hating on you, or they're just only talking, yelling at you. So you think it's just the coach. And I get a lot of athletes who will come to me saying, blaming the coach. Well, the coach did this experiment to show them that, hey, it's not just me who sees this. Your own teammates see it. They're going to show it to you. So he goes down the line and Tucker gets assigned to be his teammate, Mike. Now, Mike just happened to be the best player on the team. Now, mind you, Tucker's the 10th best player on the team. He's not very good. He's mediocre on his best day. His assignment, according to his coach, is you got to pretend to be Mike. Mike's the best player on the team. So what does Tucker do that day in practice? Jesse, I asked you this question. What did he do?
You have to be.
Right. So his assignment is to be the best player on the team. And when I talk to live audiences, I ask them, do you think you played better, the same, worse? And the results are usually pretty even across the board. Answer is he played amazingly. And he played at a level that no one had ever seen him play. He played at a level that he himself had never played. And he was telling the story. He said, I never played that good before, and I haven't played that good since that one day. And his teammates are looking at him slack-jawed like, where is this coming from? Because they never saw him do this. And mind you, he's the 10th best. He's usually sitting on the bench. And he's playing like he's the best player in the world that day because Mike was a leading scorer on the team, D1 scholarship. He was actually very good. Now, Tucker's playing that well that day. At the end of practice, his coach comes to him and says, hey, if that's what it takes, you need to pretend to be Mike every day. And what Tucker had done is tap into what we call the super you. The super you is you with a high level of confidence. And here's the key to the super you. And this is the key to confidence right here that a lot of people leave out when they talk about confidence. Because a lot of people think confidence is about adding on, doing more, thinking different things. It's also you giving yourself permission to stop being the person you've always been. A lot of advancement in life, Jesse, is not about adding on. It's about taking away. It's about essentialism. There's another book called Essentialism. And essentialism is about let's get down to the main thing. And let's do the main thing. Then all the other things don't necessarily matter anymore. So we talked about this in a bunch of different angles here that you pointed out. The big domino, the main thing, principle, Michael Jordan, priorities, clarity. They all come down to the same thing. What is the main thing? And the super you is about getting rid of all the extra stuff that clogs up your conscious mind, has you overthinking. Overthinking leads to hesitation, procrastination, and indecision. What is indecision? One of the 31 major causes of failure. So you see all this stuff connects. So the super you is about eliminating a whole bunch of the nonsense that has slowed you down so you can just focus on the essential thing and stop thinking about everything else. Think about Tucker in the story that I just gave you, this anecdote. What was his main thing that day? He had one assignment. What was it? Look at Mike. Look at how he plays. Play like that. That's it. There was no other instructions. No, do this, do that. It was one instruction. You know Mike. You see how he plays. You do that. Don't think about anything else. And he did it. That's the super you. It's tapping into that high level of confidence. And the reason why I use a basketball example for this, because some people say, well, okay, well, Dre, what you're explaining is fake it till you make it. No. This is not faking it till you make it. Fake it till you make it is an oxymoron. It's not a real thing. It's impossible. The reason why it's impossible is because fake it till you make it goes against the structure of how the subconscious mind works. Subconscious mind takes things literally. So if you tell the subconscious mind that I'm faking it until I make it, I'm a fake like I'm Michael Jordan. If you tell yourself you're faking, the problem is you have to stop faking at some point. It's like the story of Cinderella. Like, yeah, you can put on the beautiful gown, but when the clock strikes midnight, that gown is going away, no matter what you do, because you have to stop faking. Subconscious mind understands faking means temporary. So you can't have a permanent change with a temporary fix. So the super you, I use the basketball example because when you shoot the ball, you can't fake the ball going in the basket. You can't fake doing a move. Either it did or it didn't. And that actually happened. So that's what the super you is about. Again, stripping away all the nonsense and just giving yourself permission to tap into something else. There's another reason why I use that example is because Tucker, somebody may say, well, Dre, he's the 10th best player on the team. How do you become the best player just one day? How do you just do it that easily? Well, the thing is, he borrowed the posture of his teammate. Now, why did he borrow the posture of his teammate? Because his coach told him to. His coach said, be him. That was the only assignment. And he said, okay, he couldn't just make himself be Mike's height or length or jump as high as him, whatever Mike could do. But he said, okay, I can borrow his mindset. Now, how do you know what Mike's mindset is? Not that he can read his brain. All he did was look at the way Mike carried himself every day in practice. And he said, I'm going to just do that. I'm going to just play how Mike plays. I'm going to put myself in his shoes, his energy, and I'm going to play like that because my assignment today is I'm going to play like Mike. And just like that, he was able to play like Mike. Now, here's another interesting thing about that. Someone may say, well, wait a minute. He could do all these moves and make all these shots. So why does he do it all the time? Because he didn't have permission to do it all the time. The assignment gave him permission to be Mike. See, every other day, he didn't have permission to be Mike. Every other day, he had permission to be him. And him was the 10th best player on the team who sits on the bench. See, as soon as you strip away all that baggage of I'm only the 10th best player on the team to I'm the best player on the team, and my coach told me to do it, now you have license to do what you want to do. Or do what you're told to do. Let's just put it that way. The issue for Tucker is that he's 15, 16 years of age, and the next day, without proper instruction from an authority figure, he went back to being the bum who sits at the end of the bench. Now, the issue for all of you listening to this who are much older than Tucker is that you have to be the authority figure who gives yourself permission. Now, what is an authority? What does authority mean? The root word of authority is author. What is an author? Person who writes something, person who puts something on the record. What did we talk about when I said programming the subconscious mind? You write it down and you read it to yourself. And to have authority, you must auteur. You must write something. You must put it on paper, put it on the record. That makes you an author. Authors have authority. What is authority? It means people listen to what you have to say. And Tucker's coach had authority, and Tucker did what he told him to do. Well, guess what? Any of you listening to this can give yourself the same authority. Tell yourself what to do. Follow your own instructions the same way you will follow instructions of your parents, your coaches, or your bosses. If you can respect them, why can't you respect yourself? If your parents told you to do something, you would listen. If your boss told you to do something, you would do it. If you went to court and the judge told you to do something, you would do it. You go to work, your boss tells you to do something, you do it. Okay, so why can't you tell yourself to do something and do it with the same level of discipline? Well, the answer is you can. Give yourself that same level of authority. And that's what the super you is about. It's becoming the person, not pretending to be the person. Remember what we talked about, Jesse, being, doing, and having. The being is the super you. That leads to doing the moves. And that leads to, oh my God, look at all these shots he's making.
It goes right into the visualize, think, act.
That's right. You see it first, you adopt the mindset, and the behavior naturally flows from the posture. You assume a certain posture, you naturally start behaving a different way.
All right, now I got a question for you. So if I were to go to your mentor, your best friend, whoever that may be, and I were to ask them to give me 5 one-word attributes that best describe DreAllDay, what would they be? What would those 5 attributes be for you? I could name my own, but I'm just curious on what they would be for you.
It's a great question. Nobody's ever asked that one, Jesse. So someone who knows me really well, the top 5. Number 1, disciplined. Number 2, destined. Number 3, determined. Number 4, relentless. And number 5, direct.
Thank you for that. That's awesome.
What was your guess? Did any of those match?
Direct. Destined was not one. Determined was there. Disciplined. The only other one I would have put in there is passionate.
Okay,
I may put that in there differently. You're a very passionate individual. You remind me a lot of myself and the passion you have for what you do and why you do it. It just oozes, obviously, confidence, but confidence comes with passion. If you're not passionate about it, why do it? So we look for these same traits when we're hiring salespeople. Just for the salespeople listening, those are the same traits they look for. One of the things, though, in our business that I really believe a lot of what you do here can really help them is in our business, you're going to get much more rejection than you are success. And that's just for most salespeople. In the in-home world, though, it's a very real moment because you're belly to belly, which I'm stealing, by the way, because I've never heard of that, so I'm using that now.
I didn't make it up. You take it.
Okay, it's beautiful. We call ourselves road warriors, or you get the windshield time because you're always there.
Right.
For it, but they deal with a lot of rejection because you're going to close on average 30% of what you go and see. You're closing 3 to 4 people out of the 10 that you see. The rest, it's not the right time. It may be whatever it is. What would you say to somebody that deals with that rejection? It's very similar to having those ants, but that rejection can really beat you down if you're not resilient enough for it. And having that resiliency, I would like your take on this.
Yeah, it's part of the game. And part of the game is understanding that you are not going to close every sale. And here's the way it works in sales. Zig Ziglar said this. Said that in the sales world, you have a percentage of your sales are going to be what they call the lay downs. Those are the people who walk in and just lay the money down on the table. All right. Those are the easy sales. You have a good day when you get a couple of those. All right? You don't have to try hard. They just buy. They already were ready to buy. Then you have a percentage of people who are they're never going to buy. They don't have the money. They're not the right prospect. You probably shouldn't even call on them. They're not going to buy no matter what you say. Those are the nevers. Then in the middle, you have everybody else, all the rest of your prospects. And if you're going to have a career in sales, you can't miss all of those in the middle. The ones who are lay downs, of course, you take the money. The ones who are nevers, of course, you can't close them. But the ones in the middle are where the careers are made or broken. Is you have to close enough of them to sustain a career and or to keep your job, depending on where you work. They might kick you out. You don't close enough of those. So you have to close enough that are in the middle, that are the maybes, the on the fences. You get enough of those on the fence to go your way. You have a career. You be the top salesperson. You miss too many of those, you'll probably quit because you won't be making any money, especially if you're on commission. So it's the understanding. Part of the game is understanding what is a reasonable expectation of what happens here. So in basketball, for example, if you make 50% of your shots, you're a really good player. You're not expected to make every single shot. The defenses are too good. The other players are playing defense. They're trying to stop you. You're not going to make every shot. Michael Jordan made about half his shots. Shaquille O'Neal was right near the basket. He made about 60%. You're not going to make every single shot. Steph Curry shooting 3-pointers. He doesn't make even half of those. All right. So that's the expectation. You have to know that. They say in baseball, you go up to bat 10 times. You get on base 3 times, you're in the Hall of Fame. Right? You get on base 3 out of every 10 times, you're in the Hall of Fame. So you're not expected to get on base every single time. The opponents are too good for you to get on base every single time. It just doesn't work that way. So it's setting the proper expectations. And then on top of that comes into mental toughness, which we haven't talked about much here, but it's wrapped into everything we talk about here, Jesse. Is that mental toughness is about your willingness and ability to stay disciplined and stay confident regardless of the outcomes. And it goes both ways. Of course, it's you just missed the last sale. You have to show up to the next sale as if the last one didn't happen. And if you close the last sale, yes, you can borrow some of the confidence and positive energy from the last one, bring it into the next one, but don't go into the next one thinking that you can skip out on some of the steps of your process just because the last one closed. All right, this is a brand new prospect. You play basketball, you had 30 points in yesterday's game. You start today's game with 0 points. You don't have 30 points. You have 0. You got to score 30 points all over again. All right. And this team you're playing against tonight does not care that you had 30 points last night. And if they do care, they care in a way like, oh, he had 30 points last night. Let's guard him even closer so he doesn't score any points tonight. They're actually trying harder against you. The example I use, I was actually just at the zoo with my son yesterday. You think of an alligator or a lion, an apex predator, an eagle, that anybody who's studied, and I've studied these animals, these predators, is that they are successful at hunting. A lion is successful at hunting about 30% of the time. Every 10 times a lion chases down a gazelle or a deer or whatever they chase, a warthog, or they try to bring down a buffalo. 3 out of every 10, they actually succeed. The other 7, they end up with nothing. They go to sleep hungry. But let me ask you a question, Jesse. Does a lion, it sees a group of gazelles running by, does a lion say, damn, I see the gazelles, but yesterday I tried to catch one, I didn't get one. I guess I might as well not try. All right, the lion would die if they thought like that. Now, the lion has no recollection of what happened yesterday. All the lion cares about is there's a gazelle in front of me now. I need to catch this gazelle so I can eat. What are we talking about here? Clarity. The lion only has one consideration, clarity. I need to kill that gazelle so I can eat. And so my cubs can eat because they're going to die if they don't eat. I can go 2 weeks. They can't go 2 days. They got to eat. And all the lion is thinking about is what I have to do today. They don't care about what happened yesterday. They don't care what the other lions think. They don't care what the gazelles think about them. They're not saying, how fast is the gazelle? How fast am I? They know what they have to do. Instinct. I need to get close enough that when I do run, in my little short burst of energy, I can catch the gazelle who's faster than me. They don't think about this, but the gazelle's faster than the lion. So the lion knows they have to get close enough that when they do start running, the gazelle doesn't have a chance to get away. Because if it's just a straight line race, they're going to lose. The lion gets all that. So the concept here of mental toughness is you have to throw away what happened yesterday, positive or negative, and show up today with a clean mental slate. And that applies, again, regardless of what happened the previous day. And that's professionalism. Professionals don't show up saying, well, hey, it worked yesterday, so I guess I don't have to work hard today. No, that's complacency. And it's not, I failed yesterday, so I guess I might as well not even try today. That's quitting. All right. Either way is unprofessional.
I love it. Thank you. Thank you. And thank you for touching more on the mental toughness there. That is something that salespeople deal with on a regular basis.
Yes.
I also, well, let me ask you this. What do you feel the biggest challenge for salespeople is other than rejection?
Other than rejection, discipline. Showing up every day doing your job. And doing your job means, let's say if you need to find your own leads, are you doing it? Follow up. A lot of salespeople are terrible at follow up, and that's where most of the money is made. So they don't follow up and follow the right process. A lot of salespeople are just generally lazy, updating your CRM, filing your paperwork, following up on customers, following up on sales, following up on missed sales. A missed sale in August does not, no in August does not mean a no in December. All right, trust me, I can write a whole book on how many sales I made on a person who said no to me 6 months ago. I followed up 6 months later, their whole situation changed and they bought. Why? Because I followed up. Now, had I not followed up, they would have bought, but they would have bought from somebody else because I didn't follow up. So the follow-up process is another one. It's just being consistent in the game, and it all falls under discipline. Discipline is entering your paperwork, updating your CRM, following up on your prospects, remembering what the conversation was, making sure you have enough follow-up material so you're not saying the same thing over and over again. All right, having the material that you're ready, being ready to close the sale, having the materials there. Like, can you close them? Or this person says, I need to pay with this. Can I split it up into 2 payments? Can we break it up into multiple payments so I can't pay it all at once? Do you have the tools to handle anything that they bring up? All of that is discipline. All of it falls under preparation, to the point that for salespeople, whatever the prospect says to you or throws at you, you are prepared to deal with it. If you catch yourself unprepared, you catch yourself off balance. Right? In boxing, for example, you catch yourself off balance, you get knocked down. Might not even been a hard punch, but your balance is off, so you get knocked down. You're in the wrong spot at the wrong time. They catch you with a punch, you get knocked down. In sales, you should never get caught on the wrong foot. They can't wrong foot you in sales, what we call it in basketball or in boxing. So you should always be prepared, fully balanced, and fully prepared for whatever they throw at you. If you are not, there's a hole in your game, and as soon as you notice it, you better go to work on fixing it.
I like the can't get off on the wrong foot.
Right.
You have so many good one-liners. I could use them forever. Any questions you have for me before we continue it further? I wanted to open it up and let you, we're almost, we got about 15 minutes, but any questions you have for me that you wanted to ask me at all?
What do you see as the biggest challenge for your audience or your sales team on a daily basis when it comes to selling?
Well, other than discipline, would be listening.
What was the other thing?
Listening.
Yes.
Most type A salespeople, not all salespeople are type A. There are many introverts that are amazing salespeople. So salespeople come in all different categories now. The whole idea that you have to be this type of person to be a professional salespeople is not there, but listening is probably the key thing. I still deal with it myself. I literally have to bite my lip and tongue, even here, because I want to talk. Right. So listening is so important in salespeople because we have so much great information we want to give. We have tons of great information, and that person doesn't care about all that information. They care what's important to them. So we tend to talk too much and we talk ourselves out of sales instead of just listening and responding and asking questions. Listening's the one.
Absolutely. Yeah, let me ask you another question. How did you get into sales initially? And what was the first thing you sold? Do you remember?
Of course I do. Yeah. I get in the weeds, restaurant business. It's the very first. That's the very first one when I started, and I worked at Outback Steakhouse back in the heyday when it, had a 2-hour waits way back then, and there weren't that many, so people drove all over to get there. And I worked my way up through that entire company. I did everything from stocking food to busboy to host, and I did cold and hot side. So I knew everything about that company. And then I got into being a server. And that was my first kind of sales. The better experience I gave to that consumer, the better tip I got.
Mm-hmm.
And it evolved from there. I got recruited from there to go to the Men's Warehouse. And then from the Men's Warehouse, they were first coming on the East Coast. So I met my wife. And then I got recruited to go into in-home sales back with Sears Home Improvements, which was a cool company back then. There's a name most people, if they're in the game long enough, know. But and then I've been in-home sales from 1997 till now.
So when you were you said you were in-home sales was where? Where was the first place? In-home sales?
First place was Sears Home Improvement. Remember Sears, that company?
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, I know Sears. Yeah, absolutely. So no, it was before that. Men's Warehouse. So it's interesting because when you're working at Outback Steakhouse, and you tell me if I got this right, I've done serving as well. First place I served was a place called Friendly's. Remember the restaurant Friendly's?
Of course.
Yeah, there's not that many of them left. But
no, they're not.
Right. There's still a couple of them. I saw one years ago. But at Outback Steakhouse, the customers come in knowing they're going to spend money and wanting to spend money. Now, that's a different situation in Men's Warehouse because somebody can walk in, maybe not expecting to spend money, but you could get them to spend money. That's a different type of sale. So what did you learn in Outbacks? Yes, you can get them you can upsell and offer them desserts and appetizers, but they came in knowing they're going to outweigh cash. Mm-hmm. A Men's Warehouse is a little bit different game because you could take them from zero to something. So how did you learn, and how did you learn how to thrive in a place like that?
Follow the system. They have a system. They have a 7-step selling system. You went to university. I flew out to sell suits. I flew out to Chicago to California for a whole week. It was that they were that serious about it. But you have to follow a system, and if you follow that system, and it's not always going to be a perfect system. Sometimes you might have to jump around, but you follow that system, and you were successful more than not. And you just kept following the system. You put the jacket on them. You get them excited. You have the suit stacking. And if you've been in the Men's Warehouse, if you're on this call and you've heard this, you know the game and the system, how it works. And by the time you walk out, you're like, a pair of shoes, 3 shirts, 4 suits, and you just came in there for 1 suit.
Right.
And if they had a great system, it's the same thing in our in-home sales world. If you're following that system, you're going to be more successful because that system eliminates any of the objections that the consumer has, and it keeps you and the consumer both focused and going towards the same goal. If you just kind of go out there, and if you're a professional salesperson, you can go in there. I have a friend who is by far one of the most professional. He can go in there and just do it naturally. Not all people can do that. Most salespeople need to have that system in place that they can rely on and lean on and allow them to direct the customer to the end unit.
So interestingly enough, the first suit I ever bought was from the Men's Warehouse. Now, I don't get my suits from there anymore. I'm tall and I'm thin. I tend to like European cuts more than American. But I like to say, Jesse, that European men tend to grow vertically. American men tend to grow horizontally. So the Men's Warehouse suits don't fit too well on me. But my sister, when I graduated from college, she gave me a gift card for $350 to the Men's Warehouse, right? So I go to the Men's Warehouse, Willow Grove, Pennsylvania, right outside of Philly. And I went in there to get a suit. And the guy takes me through, I don't remember the process. I'm like, this is 20 years ago. And I remember I told him I needed a suit. So he gets me the suit and he shows me the shirt, gets me a tie. He helps match it up. I don't think he sold me any shoes. But after we had the suit, we got a shirt, we have a tie. And I think maybe some socks. And he looks at it, he says, Dre, this looks good, but here's the problem. All right, right now you have a uniform. He sold me 3 more shirts. And I still remember that to this day. But it made perfect sense, and it didn't sound like he was selling me. Like, he knew what he was doing, and he got me to buy a couple more shirts. Unfortunately, I didn't keep that suit. But that was the first suit that I bought ever, was with that gift card in the Men's Warehouse. So it's funny you bring that.
Men's Warehouse, they study their customer. And most of their customers are men. And if you notice now, Men's Warehouse has shifted. They don't do that many suits anymore. But when they're there, they understood the man. They specifically put their shops in places that they knew men would go to. Right. Now, they only went into malls when they had to because most men didn't like going to malls.
Right.
They knew the psychology of it. They also know most men didn't like to try to dress themselves. So if you could figure out and show them, hey, this looks good, you don't have to worry about it, they were pumped and excited about it. And they just followed those things, those need, wants, and benefits for the consumer, and went through that step. It was a phenomenal beginning to seeing a sales system and then evolving into where I'm at today and following a sales flow and having that flow in the home.
Interesting. Can I ask you another question?
Oh, please.
So, being in-home sales, how is it these days being in-home sales, being that things are so impersonal these days? Everybody's on their phone. People don't make eye contact with people in the streets. People just everything's so impersonal and digitized. How do you, first of all, find people who actually want to do that? And then how do you find prospects who are comfortable having somebody come in their house and sit with them anyway? I think everybody
Marketing game has changed. Yep, it's changed. Marketing game has changed a lot because now, before marketing was a little bit of social media. Now it's heavy. You watch most companies; they're heavy in social media because that's where most people. If you're shopping for something, you're Googling it now. That's just the way of our world. Right. We're not getting into yellow pages. We're not. We may ask friends and other things if we're having conversations, but most of the time we're going to Google it and do a little bit of research. Over half the people that you see today have researched you in one way, shape, or form before you ever talk to them. So they're already an informed consumer going into there. So getting leads has changed a lot. The biggest two that I would say is going to be social media and home shows, events, non-traditionals. And then the third one, which is kind of hard now, is your canvassing, which is the most cost effective, but it's very difficult to find somebody depending on where, I'm down in Southern Texas in Houston. It's hot. Finding somebody that wants to knock on doors and you're a 51 ratio, 50 people before you talk to one person and then hopefully get that person to set up. But those are your three best areas for marketing. And then once you're getting into the home and talking with them, it's still an experience you're having. And the benefit of it going in-home sales is you're providing a service that they have a need for one way, shape, or form. And people love to update their homes for the most part. So they have a need. The challenge that you have going in there is now, because of such a busy world we have, is first off getting both people there. All right. Mm-hmm. And then if you can't get both people there, how do you sell to the one party versus having both parties there? That becomes the second one. So now there has to be more of a follow-up game for those scenarios and situations. Mm-hmm. And then going through that, when you go in there, first off, you have to go in there confident, you have to be on time, you have to follow your presentation, but you really want to make sure that you're going in caring and confident. If you're not caring about the customer, if you care about your commission, you're not going to sell. You got to care about the customer. You got to care about what their needs are and that you can actually truly help them. One line I'd always say in a home, Dre, is I'm here to help you. Regardless of whether my product will benefit you, my job today is to find a solution that works. It may not be my product. Hopefully it is, but if it's not, we'll point you in the right direction. And most people like that. They like the fact that you're there to genuinely help them. If you genuinely care about somebody, you come in really confident and you ask the right closing questions, you'll have no problems. Those are my 3 C's to success. You have to care, you have to be confident, and you have to close. And what I mean by closing isn't going and responding to objections at the end once you get the price and, doing this back and forth. Yes, you can do that. I can teach that. It's more of closing throughout the entire process. So at the end, as we were saying before, it is just a natural yes that you're getting from the consumer because you've answered all their objections. There are only in our world, as you said, 3, we've expanded to the 5 objections. If you know how to address every one of those objections and have a way to respond to it in an intelligent, informed manner, and you're going to win majority of the time. Being prepared. You have to be prepared. You have to know your game. You have to know what it just oozes in everything you said.
Right. Well, I appreciate that. And when it comes to selling, and I'm talking face-to-face selling, this is something that I tell people, I tell young people this all the time, is that everyone should get a job in sales because you learn so much about people. You learn a lot about yourself. And once you start combining money and people, you get more experience in human psychology than you can get doing anything else. Do you believe in that? And is that something?
Yes. I wholeheartedly, like you were saying, when you went to that one in the beginning, you had like a little network marketing class.
Yeah.
I did the same thing. Exactly. Like I drove my BMX bike all the way up to this and it was like, I don't know, 3 hours from my house, went to it, but I learned so much from it. I was only there for 3 days too. Just from this little network marketing and the things they did. And it was so interesting to me. And I think that kind of sparked my interest as a young kid. And it wholeheartedly matters because you get the worldly experiences you had discussed before in one of your books is being well-rounded. And that helps you be well-rounded. I've talked to so many people high and low that I have the confidence of being able to carry conversation with anybody. And it really helps somebody to be able to be comfortable in different scenarios and situations. That face-to-face interaction, people freak out. But once you go into somebody like, you have to go in their home. I'm like, yeah, it's fun. But you have to be curious. I will say that if you're not a curious person in this business, don't do it. You have to be curious. I'm super curious about that person. Heck, I could spend another 3 hours asking you a ton of questions about yourself. I focus mostly on your book and stuff, but I'm just curious about you because of all the things that you've done. There's so many just cool things. Anyways, everybody in the audience, please look into Dre. It's an amazing individual. So that's my take on it as far as being in the home and going in there and being belly to belly with that consumer. There's nothing like it. As I would call it in sales, it is the going into the trenches. You are literally right there with that customer, and there is follow-up on our game, but there's not as much. If you don't get that order today, you will find out more times than when you do your follow-up calls, depending on how you do them, that lots of times they've decided on other ways or not doing it right now, and they're just thinking about it because we didn't really build enough in that masterful presentation in the beginning. And that's where we have to humble ourselves and go back and go look at that and go, okay, what could I have done differently? How could I have made myself better? And if we're willing to do that, then we're going to soar through the areas.
Right, let me ask you one more question.
Couple minutes left. I got to ask you questions. I need to know what your next step is. Do you have another book you're working on?
I'm always working on another book. I probably got about 8 in draft right now that are.
Do you know what your next one's going to be? Can you?
I have not decided.
Flip it to the audience.
One of those things that I was talking to you about, the principle, structure, discipline. I already have that book written out. I just haven't done the marketing layout to actually put it out and sell it, but the writing's done. So as I told you, a lot of the book world is selling the book, not writing the book. I can write books in my sleep. Selling the book takes several steps. So putting all the marketing materials together, I haven't done that yet. It's not the main priority right now. So that is coming. I have a quote book coming. I know you mentioned that I got a one-liner. So I got a quote book in the works. Problem is I keep coming up with more quotes. So I got to learn when to cut myself off. And I got a few more on several different topics, but I could write 1,000 books. Selling the books is a different story. It's a marketing process. So you got to give each book enough room to breathe. See what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, to the audience, please look into Dre. Go to DreAllDay.com. Please buy his books. They're available on audio. You can get them on hardcover as well. Work on Your Game is a phenomenal book. Highly recommend it. And then 2 others that I've listened to. And then I have a third one in a queue, which is the Super You. And then the Sales Discipline System, obviously, because I'm in sales. But the one I have in queue that I'm excited to listen to next is The Third Day. Yes. I haven't heard that one yet, but I'm excited about it. There's a lot you talked about in your other books with it too. Dre, thank you so much for today. Thank you for taking the time to talk to my audience and share your thoughts and your processes. I really appreciate you.
Much appreciated, Jesse. Thank you for having me on. I appreciate the opportunity.